The real puppet masters, the real bosses. I think Turkey could not carry the forces that emerged in the Ottoman and their influence to us. For example, we do not know the contact between the Rothschilds and the Ottomans. What kind of struggle was it? What was demanded of the Ottomans? What were their expectations from these lands? A lot of questions. However, your chance to find detailed information is almost non-existent in local sources. Go back to the establishment of the much-discussed Kizilay. You will see very interesting relationships and Rothschilds. It was seen that names such as Barrington Bennett, Sir Albert Sassoon and Moses Montefiore were prominent in the organization working to help the wounded soldiers in the Russian war. It was like that, whether it was written or not. The story of this aid goes back to Red Crescent, where Alfons Rothschild's wife Neiti Sebog Montefiore stood out. To understand the present, it is necessary to study the past well. It seems that it is not easy to understand the roles and the cards that are distributed today without understanding the Ottoman Empire's collapse of the Romanovs, the opinion wars with China and Tesla's transition to the USA and changing an era. There were important banker families that are now known by everyone. They changed the direction of the world economy with AFYON money. For example, the world's mining giant Rio Tinto was founded in 1873 by the Jardine Matheson firm. The command of the company is in the hands of the Rothschild family. Some banks and companies operating globally also hold shares. It was these partnerships that we didn't know we missed anyway. Jardine Matheson firm was doing opium trade, including these lands. Even the port of Izmir was being used in those years. The fact that foreigners settled in ZMR was never considered from this point of view, and it was not talked about. As a result of the difficulties of Russell and Perkins companies in the AFYON business, everyone knocked on the door of Rothschilds. The game has expanded. Jardine Matheson, Russell Co. and Perkins Co. were merged, joined by J.P. Morgan. All the pieces fell into place. And global, a big bank was set up in Hong Kong. Naturally, when it came to money, political power was inevitable. As I wrote last week, organizations, associations and organizations like Montpellier had needs. This is where Rio Tinto came into play. He was meeting the necessary expenses. Bilderberg, Chatham House and CFR were fed from the same source. Anyway, let's get up to date. There was a name that you won't have trouble remembering because I wrote it often before. Jeffrey Epstein. Billionaire Epstein, who was on trial for the crimes of sexual abuse of girls and creating a prostitution network in the USA, has also been in contact with celebrities such as CIA Director William Burns and Noam Chomsky. I am not surprised why the US press is surprised by this. Although no one here looks at these works, I have a hard time understanding this visual difficulty there. After making headlines as a pedophile billionaire in 2019, Epstein's agenda is still in the news, as he was found dead in the prison where he was thrown. According to the Wall Street Journal, Epstein was in close contact with the CIA director. It turned out that then U.S. Assistant Secretary of State William Burns made 3 appointments in 2014 to meet with the pedophile billionaire in Washington and at Epstein's Manhattan home. This house was mentioned as the site of many of Epstein's sexual abuses in the lawsuits. Burns was allegedly going to go into the private sector, and the only person he went to for help was Epstein. From where? Who was this man? What relationships was it at the center of? Why did U.S. presidents also have to stay close to their CIA director, Epstein? Catherine Ruemmler, who served as U.S. president from 2009 to 2017, was an advisor to Barack Obama from 2011 to 2014. It turned out that after Ruemmler left the White House, he met with Epstein dozens of times before taking a job at banking giant Goldman Sachs. The question is, what is Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Goldman Sachs? Continue. It turns out that 94-year-old Chomsky met with Epstein multiple times in 2015 to 2016. Chomsky replied, "First of all, this is none of your business or anyone else's business. Secondly, I knew him and we used to see him from time to time. Catherine Ruemmler was allegedly going to both Paris and the eventful island in the Caribbean. This is not what I want to convey. I want to come to an aim. Epstein was opening cards as Catherine Ruemmler asked for help for Goldman Sachs. Epstein, who was killed in prison, introduced Ruemmler to Ariane de Rothschild, the chief executive of the Swiss-based banking group Edmond de Rothschild. In other words, it was as if there was no area where these families were not present. We lived surrounded by an unknown network. We didn't understand. Kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers, princes, businessmen were going to Epstein. From where? Because the boss in the back was Rothschildr. CIA Director Burns, who went to Epstein to look for a job, was speaking at a university last week. Although the USA is powerful, he is no longer the only powerful lad in the neighborhood. China wants to dominate the table, and Russia wants to destroy it. If the balance was about to change, where were the families? What did they want to build? And what interests us most is who are they supporting on May 14th and what did they hope for? May 14th was never an election that only concerned Turkey. The results would be global. There were already too many signs. Of course you can see.